Most people become different when they're alone. But Sigma females, that's when they become the most themselves. Because behind the calm exterior, behind the silence, behind the independence, there are strange habits almost nobody sees. Things that look weird to other people, but actually reveal how her mind truly works. She disappears for hours without explanation, replays conversations in her head, cuts people off emotionally without warning. And the strangest part? Most of the time, she actually prefers being alone. So what exactly does a Sigma female do when nobody's watching? Let's find out. The Sigma female lives differently from most people. She doesn't rely heavily on social validation, doesn't constantly need attention, and often feels more mentally alive in solitude than in crowds. But because of that, the habits she develops alone can seem unusual, even unsettling. Not because she's antisocial, but because her inner world is far more active than people realize. Here are 10 weird things Sigma females secretly do when they're alone. One of the strangest things about Sigma females is how easily they vanish. No explanation, no dramatic goodbye, no announcement. One day she's replying normally. The next day she's gone silent for hours. Days, sometimes longer. And unlike most people, she doesn't disappear because she hates people. She disappears because overstimulation exhausts her. Too much social energy, too much emotional noise, too many expectations. And suddenly her brain craves isolation. To outsiders, it looks cold, but to her, it feels necessary. But what she does next when she's alone is something almost nobody would expect. Sigma females analyze everything, especially human behavior. That means long after a conversation ends, she's still thinking about it. Not obsessively, strategically. She replays tones, facial expressions, micro reactions. She notices inconsistencies most people miss. Why did they hesitate before answering? Why did their energy change halfway through the conversation? What were they actually trying to say? This is why Sigma females often understand people better than people understand themselves. Because while everyone else moves on emotionally, she keeps analyzing. Most Sigma females have an extremely active internal world, and sometimes that internal dialogue becomes external. She may talk through problems out loud, debate ideas with herself, practice imaginary conversations, not because she's lonely, because thinking verbally helps organize her thoughts. In fact, many Sigma females trust their own mind more than outside opinions. So being alone becomes less like isolation and more like being in a private meeting with themselves. This is one of the most misunderstood things Sigma females do. Sometimes, a switch flips, and emotionally, someone is simply gone. No huge fight, no dramatic scene, just quiet emotional detachment. Why? Because Sigma females observe patterns for a very long time before reacting. So by the time she distances herself, the decision was already forming silently for weeks or months. And when she finally disconnects emotionally, it's usually permanent. But the next habit is probably the weirdest one of all, because most people would never admit doing this. A Sigma female's mind rarely stops moving. When she's alone, she mentally simulates entire futures. Different relationships, different outcomes, worst-case scenarios, escape plans, life changes. Sometimes she imagines conversations that never happen. Sometimes she prepares emotionally for events that may never come. This isn't paranoia, it's mental preparation. Because Sigma females hate feeling emotionally trapped or caught off guard. So her mind constantly builds possibilities, just in case reality changes suddenly. Silence makes many people uncomfortable. Sigma females crave it. Not awkward silence, not emotional silence, real silence. No notifications, no conversations, no social pressure, just space to think. And this is where people misunderstand her badly. They assume silence means sadness. But many Sigma females feel happiest when everything finally becomes quiet. Because silence gives her nervous system room to breathe. Sigma females are highly observant, even digitally. Sometimes she watches people's behavior online without liking, commenting, or engaging at all. Not in a creepy way, in a psychological way. She studies patterns, who changes personalities depending on attention, who constantly seeks validation, who posts for approval versus authenticity. And while most people scroll passively, she analyzes, because understanding people fascinates her more than impressing them. One thing Sigma females rarely do publicly is transformation. They do it quietly, alone. She may suddenly change her mindset, her style, her goals, her routines, without telling anyone. And people around her often become confused because one day she seems familiar and the next day she feels completely different. That's because Sigma females evolve internally long before the outside world notices. But what she does next when alone reveals why Sigma females are so emotionally difficult to read. Most people think Sigma females are emotionally detached. That's rarely true. The reality is almost the opposite. They feel intensely. They just process emotions privately. So while others cry publicly, vent online, or seek comfort immediately, the Sigma female disappears into solitude. She processes pain alone, heals alone, reflects alone. And because nobody witnesses that emotional depth, people assume it doesn't exist, but it does, very deeply. This is the strange truth many Sigma females never say out loud. Even when surrounded by people, they often feel psychologically separate. Not superior, just different. Different priorities, different emotional needs, different ways of seeing the world. And when alone, that feeling becomes stronger. Sometimes empowering, sometimes painful. Because deep down, many Sigma females secretly wonder if anyone will ever fully understand them. Sigma females aren't strange because they hate people. They're strange because their inner world is louder than the outside world. When alone, they analyze, reflect, disappear, reinvent themselves. And while others fear solitude, the Sigma female often discovers herself inside it. Maybe that's why she's so hard to understand. Because the version people see publicly is only a fraction of who she really is when nobody's around. If you related to these habits, you probably understand the Sigma mindset better than most people. Subscribe for more deep psychological content. And watch the next video, what a Sigma female sees that everyone else completely misses. Because once you understand how she thinks, you start seeing people differently too.